Kickstarted, a case study. I'm really thrilled to have Elisabeth Holm from Kickstarter here this morning and some of our filmmakers who are going to join in the conversation. I don't know, we do have some clips. We don't normally do this, so hopefully you can all see the screen. If not, there are seats kind of scattered throughout. You might want to smush together, move over a little bit. But anything else? I need to start. I think I'm just going to hand it over to Elisabeth, let her introduce herself and tell you what she does, and then we'll bring our panelists up a little bit later into the program and have a Q&A after that. So thank you so much for joining us, and here we go.
Morning. Morning. I like that. So yeah, I'm actually been using this screen a lot. I know that there was a call out to shmush and nobody shmushed, but I would really encourage the shmushing because I'm just going to keep referring to stuff that's on the screen. Okay. You can all see. Cool. I also feel very tiny here, so I'm going to sit on my knees, which my mom hates when I do. Sorry. Hi, I'm Elisabeth. I'm an independent producer based in New York. I'm also the film program director at Kickstarter. I actually came to Kickstarter 3 or so years ago, raising funds for a film, and really fell in love with the experience and wanted to help more filmmakers have that experience. And I continue to use it for all my films. I've got a movie here called Obvious Child that I produced that played claps. Cool. Thanks, guys. We play again today at noon if you haven't seen it yet. So I'm actually going to talk through a sort of overview of Kickstarter and film on the site and some best practices, and do a little bit of a case study with my own film because I know how to talk about that. And then we've got a bunch of really awesome filmmakers here who also raise funds through the site, who I'd love to bring up and talk about their work after I kind of just blow through some slides. Sorry, I'm a New Yorker, so I'll talk kind of fast. But we will do questions after the presentation, then again with our other filmmakers, we'll do a Q&A with them as well. Sort of quick show of hands, how many folks have actually been to Kickstarter.com before? Cool. And who has backed, like, pledged money to projects before? Cool. And who has run a project before, besides the filmmakers on the panel? Okay, great. So as I feel like you guys probably know, Kickstarter is the world's largest funding platform for creative projects. At this point, we've seen over 59,000 projects successfully funded, meaning projects that reach their goal within the amount of time that they had to reach it. We'll talk more about what that means in a moment. We're coming up on 6 million backers, and we've seen over $1 billion pledged. We just crossed $1 billion pledged to creative projects last month. More than half of that was pledged in the last year alone. Wow. So I think that what is really exciting to me about Kickstarter is that more than anything, it's an opportunity to share an idea with a community of people. At this point, 1.7 million people are what we call repeat backers. They've backed more than one Kickstarter project. Over 16,000 have backed more than 50. I've actually backed over 500 projects, most of them films. And more than half the money pledged on site has come from repeat backers. So there is a very active, growing community of people who are pledging to multiple things. So I really do feel like Kickstarter is a community. Not only the communities that each project is unto itself, but the site-wide there is a real active community of people supporting each other's work. So what do we mean when we say Kickstarter project? Funding is for finite creative projects. So there are loads of sites out there now where you can kind of raise money for anything you want. On Kickstarter, we're mainly focused on the creative arts, although we certainly include certain things like product design and technology and food under a sort of broader definition of creativity. But they need to be finite. It's not about raising sort of open-ended business startup costs. It's about I'm making a movie, not I'm launching a production company. Or, you know, I'm publishing a book, not like I am a publisher. Rewards must be offered. So again, there's a lot of conversation out there now about crowdfunding for equity or some kind of return on investment. On Kickstarter, you need to offer things in exchange for pledges, but there's sort of creative experiences or opportunities or creative tangible things connected to the work, like a DVD or a signed poster or a chance to spend the day on set, not necessarily like a percentage off the back end. And we don't allow fundraising for charity or causes. We don't allow awareness campaigns. That's not because we're horrible people. I think the main reason that we do that is because we just feel like creativity deserves its own space. For pledging is motivated by wanting to see this creative thing come to life, wanting to pledge to it because you like it or believe in it, not about like some portion of the proceeds are going somewhere else, even though that's totally awesome and valid as well. It's just something that we decided from the beginning was important to us to kind of maintain the integrity of pledging to Kickstarter projects. So as I mentioned, projects that meet their goal, Kickstarter is what's called an all or nothing funding model, which means you have to set a goal for yourself in a certain amount of time to reach that goal. And if you don't reach the goal within that amount of time, no money changes hands, no credit cards are charged, everyone walks away like nothing has ever happened. I think that that is a major thing that accounts for a lot of the success on Kickstarter and why we have seen over 1 billion pledged, why we have seen nearly 60,000 projects make it. First and foremost, the main reason that we do that is because it's less risk for everybody. So if you say that you need $10,000 to finish your film, but then you only have 5,000, you have no way to actually make good on the promises of your project, and you're kind of sitting on other people's money, which I don't like to do. Maybe there are people in here who don't mind. But in general, the idea is that as a backer, I want to pledge to something that I know is really possible to happen from my pledge. And as a creator, I don't want to ask for something if I can't actually make good on it. So secondly, it encourages participation. I think for folks who've pledged to stuff before, you know that it's sort of like about the first few days when the campaign is very new and the last few days when the clock is ticking. People really come out of the woodwork and rally around a project to help it cross the finish line. Without that kind of novelty and urgency, you lose a lot of momentum around the funding. It becomes less of a campaign and more of like a tip jar, which is not what Kickstarter is. So thirdly, that's compelling, and I always say maybe it's just compelling to Kickstarter staff. It's really fun to watch. It's probably nerve-wracking for some of the filmmakers who are in the room, and we could talk about that a little bit today. But it really does kind of like eventize the experience of not just funding, but really making something and getting people to be a part of it. So does all of that craziness actually work? Yes, in fact, about 82% of projects that reach just 20% of their funding goal, whatever that goal is, succeed. 98% of projects that reach just 60% of their funding goal succeed. And 88% of dollars pledged on site are pledged to successfully funded projects. A little less than half the projects on site are successful, 44%. If you do meet your goal, Kickstarter takes a 5% fee, and then there's an additional 3 to 5% of credit card processing fees through Amazon. If you don't meet your goal, there's 0 percentages taken. There's no fee. So even though I just talked about money a whole lot, I do think that what excited me about Kickstarter and what drew me to actually working there is that the space really is about so much more than money. I think all the filmmakers hopefully can talk a little bit about that. We certainly had that on Obvious Child. It was a big part of why we wanted to use Kickstarter in the first place. It is a space to share your story and engage community, to find new patrons, and to retain complete creative control. Because people are not pledging for equity, it's not about like who you're casting or where you're shooting or what your budget is. It's about people backing something because they believe in you and your vision, and give you the freedom to do that. Here are just a few of the Kickstarter-funded films that we've seen in the last couple years. The Square was nominated for an Oscar. I think some folks have probably heard of Veronica Mars. Blue Ruin is a really awesome movie that came out in Cannes last year that is now going to be released by Radius. It's kind of like an art house revenge drama. It's very cool. Keep the Lights On, Ai Weiwei, Never Sorry. 12 O'Clock Boys, which is a super cool doc you can find on iTunes now. Pariah, which was released by Focus Features a couple years ago. And we recently launched, that's my face on the internet, we recently launched the Kickstarter movie room on iTunes. So if you actually go to itunes.com/Kickstarter, you can see hundreds of Kickstarter-funded films that are now out in the world. Really excited about that. A great way to kind of just browse and see what has come to life through the site and discover some cool movies. Some of the Kickstarter-funded films that are here, we have filmmakers to talk about their work as soon as I'm done blabbing. But Marmato, Drunktown's Finest, The Internet's Own Boy, and Riley, you changed the title of your movie. Can you tell us what it is now? Elvis loses his excess and other tales from the world's longest yard sale. And Rich Hill, and Obvious Child. So there are sort of 3 main ways to tell your story on Kickstarter, and really I think it's best to think about it as a kind of interactive storytelling platform more than anything else. The main way that you would tell the story is through your project video. So we have a little montage cut together to give you a sense of the project video.
Hello. Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
What's up, people? Hi. Hey. Hello. I thought we were gonna do hello.
Hi.
I love your new shoes. Are those new shoes?
Hi, my name is Raquel.
And I could go on, but this is a Kickstarter campaign video, and I haven't even told you what my project is yet. So the idea is this.
I'm reading a book. The feature film.
Stop motion animations.
Sci-fi music video album.
What if you'll actually be able to buy the tour dress that they themselves
I
designed?
want to make a new graphic novel, and I want you to get some original art.
This time I decided to write things that were more lyrical.
Help to make something strange and unique for you to enjoy.
I made a film called Codependent Lesbian Space Aliens Seek Sane.
Right now, I'm sitting on over 200 hours of incredible footage. I'd like your help to complete it.
Cut out all that extraneous stuff, all this extraneous costs, and get to the point, which is simply more art for more people.
The last piece of the puzzle is going to be you. We cannot do this without you. We can't.
We need you to be a part of this. This is a collaborative experience.
If you back this Kickstarter project, you will be cool and everybody will like you.
I want to make a show that you don't just watch. Something unpredictable, strange, and maybe even amazing. So let's do this thing. I'm really excited for this. I think that this is worth doing.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for watching our Kickstarter. Let's go make a story. We can make it together.
So I think with all of these, you guys are generous clappers. I like it. I think with all of these project videos, and we'll talk more about this with the filmmakers who are here, it's not necessarily about like having a really slick trailer. It's really about giving backers a sense of who you are as an artist, why you're telling the story, why you're making this thing, where you are in the process of making it, and inviting them to be a part of it. I think when you start thinking about Kickstarter as less of an ask and more of an invitation, it really helps you think about how to talk to people about what you're doing, and how to have them be excited to join. The second main way that you tell your story through Kickstarter besides the video is through project rewards. This says copy of the thing, creative process, shared experience. This Polaroid is like a $15 reward from a girl named Emily who did a photography project selling around the world. This was like very, very early days of Kickstarter. I don't even know if we would allow it anymore because we might call it a Fund My Life project now. But basically she sailed around the world taking Polaroids everywhere she went, and for 15 bucks she would send one to you folded up in a hand-drawn map that she mailed to you. And that's our co-founder Yancey's thumb. This is like his favorite reward. It's in a glass box in his apartment, which I always say is kind of creepy, but really cool. And you want to offer things that people are going to remember and that are kind of these like the anecdotes, the stories that we tell. People come over to your house and they're like, "Oh, what is that cool thing?" And then everyone who's coming over to your house learns about Emily's project. For filmmakers, very often the bread and butter is, a digital download, a DVD, the signed poster, the things that we talked about. But I think sort of the more thoughtful and creative you can be about finding rewards that are really directly connected to your specific project, the better off you are. Like there was some of my favorite ones. There was a Charlie Kaufman stop motion animation raised about $500,000 on Kickstarter. It's a stop motion about the mundanity of life because he is Charlie Kaufman. And for like 40 bucks, you got a digital download of the film as well as one of the actual clay figurines that he used in making the movie, which is very cool because that's not something that I would ever buy. I mean, I'm a fan of his, but I don't tend to buy sort of memorabilia. But as far as like being part of the Kickstarter project and being part of making that movie happen, that was something that I was excited to have. Another movie that I love is a documentary called Our Nixon. Has anyone heard of this film? Cool. It's one of my favorite Kickstarter projects. They actually ran 2 campaigns early in production, then towards the end of post going into their premieres at, I think, Rotterdam and South by Southwest. It's a film that is made entirely of Super 8 footage shot by the Nixon aides like Halderman and Ehrlichman, like shot throughout his administration. So you have this really amazing sort of behind-the-scenes access to Nixon as you never saw him, Nixon at his daughter's wedding or in China or on vacation. And it's cut to like the Carpenters. It's a very sort of lyrical, experimental portrait of Nixon. It was actually broadcast on CNN. And so for like $70, they basically laid off all of their hundreds of hours of footage onto DVDs. So I have a full set of like 100 hours of really personal Nixon archives. And, it didn't really cost the filmmakers anything other than time. But, to me, like, we played that I live in Brooklyn, we were like barbecuing on my roof, and we're sort of projecting it onto a whitewashed wall and like drinking beers and flipping burgers to Nixon's daughter's wedding, which was really strange, but really awesome. And then obviously I told all my friends about that movie because they were like, what are we watching? So I think like these are the kinds of rewards that are exciting. And I think we'll talk about this with the filmmakers. You don't want to become a merchandiser. You don't want to spend more money making and shipping stuff than you do, making your film. So it's important to kind of keep in mind what the reality of making and sending things is and factor that into the funds that you're raising. But if you can have one or two really special things that are specific to your project, I think that really helps communicate the story. I do this a lot. I need to stop. I'm sorry. So on Kickstarter, $10. I think it's really important to keep in mind the average pledge is about $70. The most common pledge is $25. These aren't huge amounts. You will have people who want to pledge 1,000 or 5,000 or 10,000, which is the largest pledge, but kind of the bread and butter of the website is these $15, $20, $25, $30 pledges. So you want to think about sort of what is that basic reward that most people are getting, and very often for a filmmaker, something like a DVD or a digital download is always going to be 50 or less, typically somewhere between 15 and 50. The third main way that you'll tell your story on Kickstarter is through project updates. So for anyone who's ever backed a Kickstarter project before, you get these emails. Every time a creator posts an update, it gets automatically emailed to all of their backers, so you don't have to return to the page to see it. Sorry. You have to listen to that. I think that what is really cool about updates is that it's not just a space to kind of reach out to people and remind them, I'm still raising funds, please put our project on Facebook and Twitter and tell your friends. But more than it's an opportunity to share a process, whether that's clips or like behind the scenes stills or a story about a great day on set, or you're reaching out and actually looking for help. Like I've gotten updates from filmmakers who are shooting their party scene and like reach out to their backers if they want to be extras in the bar, or sort of like an open casting call, or asking for their feedback and advice, inviting them to a rough cut screening, letting them know when you get into Sundance or get into Ashland, or your film is being released, or is now available on iTunes. I think you want to think of it as sort of your project's blog and a space to have a kind of constant conversation with your backers, because also every update has a space for comments and people can write back to you, so it's not sort of just a one-way dialogue. So who are these backers that I keep talking about? Your fans, your friends, your internet, your press, the Kickstarter community. Kickstarter is a grassroots platform, so in general it typically starts with friends and family and people who know you. That said, like I typically message my friends and family, being pretty clear, I'm not really asking them to pledge, I'm just asking them to help me spread the word and help to broaden the network. And I think that can really be equally valuable. So when you're sending out emails or posting on Facebook or Twitter, thinking about your messaging and thinking about what the conversation is. It's not necessarily can everyone please pledge as much as it is like please help raise the awareness of this project that I'm doing and get more people to watch the video and get a sense of what I'm up to. You also can spend time kind of targeting blogs, targeting press that you think is interested in the project. I think that for filmmakers more than ever, there is a kind of sense of you being your own grassroots PR machine, which can be daunting, but can also be, I think, really empowering. So all of the same work that you're going to be doing for the marketing and outreach of the movie is exactly applicable to Kickstarter. It's just starting a little bit early. And when you send out that information to that local, blog, to the college that you went to all of sort of the networks that have supported you and your work along the way, or to those targeted groups that are interested in something that is connected to your film, sending them more personal messages, not just sort of like a mass BCC email, I think is really important, and highlighting what it is about your story and the work that you're doing that is, you think specifically interesting to this person or to this group. So at this point, I kind of just wanted to go through what we did for Obvious Child and dig a little bit deeper into the specifics of some of the choices that we made and why we did. So we set a goal of 35,000 for finishing funds and raised a little over 37 from about 631 people. We did this going into our festival premiere at Sundance. So we launched, I believe, in mid-December and ran through mid-January. We did a 30-day campaign. You can be live anywhere from 1 to 60 days, but we typically recommend 30 as having the highest success rate and kind of being the sweet spot of just enough time, but not too much that you lose momentum. I thought that I would show you guys the project video.
Okay, who here just saw my face and thought that I'm the product of if a menorah fucked Natalie Imbruglia? But the menorah like had me. Hi, I'm Gillian Robespierre, the writer and director of Obvious Child. Obvious Child is an honest comedy about what happens when stand-up comedian Donna Stern gets dumped, fired, and pregnant just in time for Valentine's Day. Hi! This is Jenny Slate. This is Gabby Hoffman.
I'm Gabe Liebman, I play Joey, and they don't want to introduce
Oh my god, I thought we were gonna go down the line.
and they're homophobes.
Why did we make it? How we made it? We wanted to tell a more familiar story, a story that we hadn't seen on the screen yet before, and that's a story about a woman who makes a choice, and she comes out okay.
I remember seeing a condom, I just don't know like exactly what it did.
Jenny Slate has been a part of the project since the beginning, and I'm so honored that she stuck with us, and she's so funny, one of the funniest people I've ever met, and I can't wait for you guys to see her in this project.
Obvious Child started off as a short film that Gillian Robespierre, the director and writer, wrote with Karen Main and Anna Bean, and they had seen me do some stand-up, and then asked me if I would do the short, and I'd never done a project that had like real acting in it before. I'd always played like characters, so I was super pumped to play a real woman.
Have a great life. I'll be here with my normal HPV that 1 in 4 nice women have.
I love romantic comedies, and I always wanted to see Donna go through this experience in a romantic comedy.
You? Did you just warm this butter up for me?
Max is outside of Donna's realm of normal guys that she dates or has any interest in, but there's something else there.
Since making the short, I've been collaborating with my producer Elisabeth Holm, and we shot the feature in the spring of 2013 and edited all summer. And after months and months of hard work, we are happy and thrilled to say that we were accepted to Sundance, and we'll be heading to Park City in January.
Let's go, it'll be mad nice. We'll get a crew together, it'll be like the old times.
And that's where you come in, because finishing a film can be pretty costly. We have to color correct, sound design, and mix. You know, fart noises are not easy. Making Obvious Child was an incredible collaborative experience, and I hope you'll join us.
You're so pretty! Now just hold it just for a second.
Are you proud of me?
So I work with really disgusting women. Yeah, so for our movie, I mean, you know, we really wanted to tell the story of that there was a short film and how Jenny became involved and why we wanted to make a romantic comedy about a woman who has an abortion and comes out okay. And it was really a safe space for us to kind of craft essentially like our director's statement or, you know, we wound up getting a lot of press that was directly just quoting our page. So we were kind of giving them something to hold on to and not necessarily pass judgment on our movie without seeing it, but giving them more of an opportunity to get to know us and our feelings about making this. And so it wound up being a really useful tool like for our publicists and for our sales agent and for all these people going into the film, which had nothing to do with raising money. It was just about the conversation that the film was igniting. On the reward side of things, you know, we offered a bunch of different stuff. An example of one for $10 or more, a private link to view the 2009 Obvious Child short film with a bonus file featuring director's commentary, and by commentary we mean complaints about how cold it was and how broke they were, and possibly also some burping. I think that, again, like sort of going back to this idea of telling your story through a bunch of different things, rewards were another way that we could kind of editorialize and give voice to the world of the movie. Other things we offered for $100, we decided sort of the one swag item we would make, because selfishly it was the swag item that we wanted to wear ourselves. This Superfly limited edition obvious child tote, tastefully featuring Donna Stern's holy trinity of adult womanhood, blouse plus schedule plus car phone. And then you'd also get the DVD and other things that were available for sort of earlier rewards. And then for $1,000, 2 people pledged to be our Valentine. For better or worse, writer-director Gillian Robespierre and producer Elisabeth Holm are born and raised New Yorkers who grew up on 2 things: the island of Manhattan and romantic comedies. Let Born and Raised LLC take you on a tour of your favorite New York City rom-com spots, from Katz's to that bench by the Queensboro Bridge to somewhere featured in Walking and Talking that we haven't decided yet. It's going to get silly. So again, like trying to find rewards that were about actually meeting some of our backers and engaging with them, and just, again, sort of building the world of New York romantic comedy through our rewards, which was really fun and very cold. For posting updates, we made a couple videos that we thought kind of communicated more of who we were when we shot our Kickstarter video, and maybe these guys can talk a little bit about that. Everyone goes through the kind of series of false starts. Filmmakers hate being on camera. There's a lot of just ridiculousness of actually trying to tell your story, so I think sometimes Kickstarter can be intimidating to filmmakers who don't want to like put themselves on camera and talk about what they do, but it's a really important, if anything, just an important and helpful exercise to being able to talk about your work. So we like created this little supercut of some of Gillian's inability to communicate what this movie is. I can't remember if I have any of it here, if it's just a screen
I
shot.
wish I was drunk, because I'm better drunk. My name is what? Have you ever seen the Titanic? I haven't. Who gets dumped, fired? Oh my god. Hi, Liz fucked me. That seems crazy how I did that. I watch a lot of TV. Okay, I'm gonna start again. No? Ah! I'm British. We have to sound design and mix. All of our fart levels are all over the place, and I am too.
That went on for much longer, but I'm glad that I spared you. And then we also, we shared other things like this video text message that Jenny sent us when we told her that we got into Sundance. So that's something else that we did. Another thing I want to show you guys, this is kind of the admin side. So as a Kickstarter creator, there's a lot of sort of information data that you have access to about your campaign, about where your pledges are coming from. This was kind of our funding graph from the first day to the last day, and the green line is when we hit our goal and continue to raise funds a little bit over that. Most projects have a kind of curve where you see most of your pledges in the very beginning when the project is new, in the very end in the last few days. In the middle is kind of this trough where you're maybe getting press, you're building buzz, you're posting updates, people are talking about the project, but they're not necessarily incentivized to move the needle. And maybe the filmmakers can talk a little bit more about kind of like what they were doing in the middle of the campaign. For us, we spent a lot of time reaching out to blogs and press and trying to ignite conversation, whether it was about Jenny or about kind of making a romantic comedy about a girl who has an abortion, or about the short film and people who responded to that. But yeah, I think that it's very common to have a middle period where where the needle isn't moving that much. So going into a project knowing that, I think, can just be psychologically very helpful, where you really want to focus the most on kind of the beginning and end as the major sort of jumps in funding. So, as I said, like, we did things like send out emails and kind of targeted emails to different people, to different groups differently. We used Facebook and Twitter, but really more to get people to actually watch the content that we were posting. The messages were less about, like, please pledge to our project than they were take a look at some clips or this tweet. Like, every update that we posted, we also tweeted it. So the tweet that says, remember that time we told Jenny Slate we got into Sundance, she was not chill, was the video that I just showed you guys of her screaming in the car. I think she was driving, which seems very dangerous. We also reached out to a lot of blogs who, and reached out to them individually and sent really specific emails to them about, what we liked about them, what we felt like connected us to our film to them, and kind of highlighted whether it was a specific reward or a specific cast member, really being thoughtful about the messaging as we kind of discussed earlier. And we actually got a fair amount of traffic to the page through those sites. We also used, on Kickstarter, there's a lot of different ways to browse the site. In addition to featuring stuff on their homepage and the newsletter, you can browse by what's popular, you can browse by location, you can browse by what your friends are backing, because we'll pull from your Facebook and Gmail. We have a section called Curated Pages that highlights arts organizations and institutions that we invite to kind of curate projects from within their community, so reaching out to Sundance to have them feature us on their curated page. And in the end, I don't know if you probably can't read, the green in the pie chart is funds pledged actually via Kickstarter, whereas the gray is through externals. So we got a lot of pledges, obviously, from direct traffic, but also from like Jezebel and Facebook and Bustle and Feministing. These blogs were actually some of our top sources of funding. So again, every creator gets this kind of dashboard to check out where their pledges are coming from, to see what's working, to see if Kickstarter is earning more than its 5%, which it definitely did. We got pledges from people finding us through the popular section, through the Sundance curated page. And this was actually the coolest thing to me. That's our project video stats. So nearly 14,000 people watched our Kickstarter project video. And about 42% of them actually completed the video all the way through. I think that, obviously 14,000 people didn't pledge to our project, and it's not a one-to-one relationship of like, I have this many Facebook likes or this many Twitter followers necessarily means I get this many pledges. But to us, it was really encouraging that people actually wanted to know more about our movie and wanted to stick around to watch all of the fart and burp sounds. I guess at this point would be a great time to bring up our filmmakers who are here and have them talk a little bit about their own work. Maybe we can open it up to questions as well while they're coming up. I can field some. Sure. Kickstarter was founded in 2009 by Perry Chen, Yancey Strickler, and Charles Adler. Long before that, it was Perry's idea. He basically was living in New Orleans, and he really wanted to throw a concert, but he didn't want to actually go through with throwing the concert unless he knew enough people wanted to come. So it kind of started this all or nothing idea of like, if enough people want to make it happen, let's do it. And in fact, the concert didn't happen, but he moved to New York, was waiting table at a restaurant in Brooklyn called Diner, where Yancey was a regular. Yancey was a rock critic, ran a small record label. They became friends, started batting around this idea, and then decided to launch a project to save a show called Arrested Development from being canceled. Which of course didn't work, but David Cross saw that project and became Kickstarter's first investor. So again, like thinking about all these things that happened besides just raising money, it really kind of helped launch the website. And so, yeah, it just grew from a lot of really small, strange arts projects into this bigger community with a lot of art being sort of channeled through the site. Yeah, I'm super proud to be part of it. They're very lovely humans. I guess, why don't you guys introduce yourselves, talk about who you are and your movies that are here. Do you want to start, Sydney?
Hello, my name is Sydney Freeland. I'm the writer-director of Drunktown's Finest, and we did a Kickstarter campaign for finishing funds for like, I think, 30,000.
So my name is Brian Knappenberger. My film is The Internet's Own Boy, the story of Aaron Swartz. And we got started with Kickstarter campaign. We raised about, I think we raised way past 95,000 in our initial kind of run. And it wasn't the full budget of the film, but it certainly got us going. It was great.
My name's Riley Hooper. I made the World's Longest Yard Sale documentary, short. And we raised a little over $4,000 before we set out on the road to film the yard sale film.
My name is Mark Grieco. My film is called Marmato. It's a feature documentary. We raised kind of in a mad dash fashion at the end of post-production. I think it was 46,000. And I was just telling Elisabeth that it basically saved us from living in a gutter. So it was really helpful.
I guess, well, I'll start us off. Brian, you mentioned, which is a really important point, that you raised 95 grand, but that wasn't the total budget. I think especially in the film space, it's important to keep in mind that very often the funds you're raising on Kickstarter, like for us with Obvious Child, are in conjunction with a bunch of other money. Can you guys speak a little bit about sort of how it was, what piece it was, and kind of how it fit into the full?
I think it's. I would maybe argue it's rare for a film to be entirely funded this way. You would know. I'm not sure that's happened yet. I mean, certainly other players or other people come in, so it augments some part of the production process, either gets you going or, that sort of middle ground when you're kind of the slog through edit or finishing funds, which sounds like what you did. And all that's super important. Like, you get into Sundance, there's a lot of costs to do, and really getting going in a way. If you've got momentum on a film already and you want to get going and you want to dig into it, that's a great part. But I don't think, and my take on it is that, of course, you want the funding to create a film, but really I think one of the best parts of Kickstarter is the sort of community of people that end up invested in your film, not just financially but emotionally. They get excited about it. You suddenly have 1,531 people donated to our Kickstarter campaign, and that's 1,531 people who really want to see the film get made, and they're excited about it, and they're telling their friends about it, and so you've got this kind of community of people built in. I think that's probably the best part. There are things I think that this is my first Kickstarter campaign, so it's observations on one single experience. But I do think that there are some. You have to be careful about a little bit. It takes a lot of time, right? Like, it takes a lot. It's a full-time job for like a month, for that 30 days, probably 6 weeks, a couple weeks before that. So you got to factor that in. You don't want to. You're also excited. I want people to donate to my thing. So the tendency or the kind of temptation is to offer too much in the kind of rewards phase, and that can be problematic. And I've seen other filmmakers run into trouble where they're making X number of dollars, but half of that is going to rewards, and the time it takes to stuff envelopes and send things out and make DVDs if you weren't already. So there's some, it's an interesting balance. I certainly learned a lot from one experience, but I guess my sort of takeaway is that the best part of it is that community that you've built, that now is just this kind of army of people that want to see your film made.
Yeah, I think on the rewards front, it's definitely important. We touched on it a little bit earlier of kind of factoring in things like shipping and manufacturing and being thoughtful with what you're choosing to make, and also the quantity. Like, you can limit the number of rewards that you offer. So setting limits on those things so that at a certain point beyond that number, they're sold out. Adding specific amounts for international shipping. I can't remember if we had that tool when you raised funds, but being clear about if this is a reward that ships within the US or internationally, and if it is one or the other, how much people should add for shipping. So I think the platform has gotten better thinking about those things, but for sure.
Well, it's so exciting at the beginning, right? When you're, this is going to be great, and then when it dawns on you how much this stuff adds up and the amount of work that you have to do, there's a sobering moment where it's like, okay, well, this is a full-time job for a brief. I mean, I say that as a sort of minor sort of criticism of it, but it's not. It's just something that I think you have to really be aware of.
Totally. I mean, I think that it's hard work, and I think making a movie is hard work, applying for grants is hard work, getting equity. Like, I don't think it's free money, but I don't think that I certainly didn't come into it thinking that was what it was. It is definitely work for that month. And then 2 weeks later, you get to go finish your movie. Yeah.
I noticed that some of the film projects on Kickstarter, for larger donations, there's an option to have the money be paid to whoever your fiscal sponsor might be, or have a fiscal sponsor. And there's like a no reward button that you can opt to. Can you speak to that process a little bit?
So you can use a fiscal sponsor on Kickstarter, and a lot of documentary filmmakers do. You'd basically, in the sort of account setup section where you'd normally put like your LLC, you'd actually give your login password to your fiscal sponsor and have them put in their bank account information so that all of your pledges are tax deductible. It's tricky. Like, typically fiscal sponsors tend to take somewhere between like 4 and 6% of what you raise. So to me, like, Kickstarter takes 5, credit card processing fees take another 3 to 5, and then your fiscal sponsor takes a fee on top of that. I more feel like, because the most common pledge on Kickstarter is 25, the average pledge is 70. It's about building a community. To me, it's more exciting to get 5,000 backers pledging $1 than one backer pledging $5,000. I tend to encourage, like, maybe set a slightly lower goal on Kickstarter and redirect those like single checks of 1,000 or higher directly to the fiscal sponsor offsite. I think that's better for you as a filmmaker, because you get to keep more of the money that way, and sort of keep Kickstarter about a larger number of people than necessarily a larger dollar amount. But it is definitely an option for you to use the fiscal sponsor, and then everyone's pledges are tax deductible. It's really just up to you and the fiscal sponsor to send those letters at the end of the year. There's a really broad range. I mean, Sydney and I both made feature narratives. Brian and Mark made feature docs, and Riley made a short doc. About half the films on site are shorts, and then the other half are a mix of features. There's also restoration projects, there's animations, there's art house theaters raising funds to get a DCP projector. There's web series projects. It's a really, really broad range of work. But because about half the films are shorts, the average film raise is pretty low. It's like $12,000. But I would say on the feature side of thing, most films are raising like between 25 and 50 grand. Yeah.
Was this anyone's first film that you put on film?
It's my first Kickstarter.
Yeah, it was my first film. Yeah. And we had a really kind of rocky ride with Kickstarter because the film is about a mining company taking over a town in Colombia. And I was living there and working there alone. So I had the idea to do a Kickstarter campaign in 2010, but I kept delaying it because I could never go public with my image, my voice, my opinions, and the footage itself. So I shot something in 2011 that I eventually used for Kickstarter, which was just horrifying because I was so embarrassed to be on camera. But, you know, we had to use it. And then we found out that as soon as we decided to do that, we were already in post-production. So we thought, okay, we're safe to do this. We can put it out there. And we had been working with a team of lawyers already because we knew that there was a very good chance that we would be sued by this mining company, just even if they hadn't seen the film yet. So we launched the campaign, and the first week was great. You know, it just took off. And all of a sudden, our lawyers called us and said, "What the hell are you doing? You don't have errors and omissions insurance yet. And you're going out publicly with the footage." And I thought I was already safe. You know, I had been really kind of careful about this. And she said, you know, you have to think about maybe taking this down, because they could just right now kill the film. Not even kill the Kickstarter campaign, kill the film. So our graph went like this, and then it just went like this, because we could not publish anything. So we scrambled in the middle of doing sound design, editing, color correction, to get our errors and omissions insurance. And as soon as we had that, then we jumped back into the campaign, which was about the third week in, and somehow, by a miracle, we got the money.
Do you mind me asking a question? How much footage did you put into that initial thing? Like, was it 3, 5 minutes, 8 minutes? And did you say anything about the companies in that?
Yeah, I tried to stay really kind of objective about it. And in fact, the film tries to take, you know, an objective approach to this, listening to all sides, because it's a complicated case. But that didn't matter. I had characters in the film saying opinionated things about the company, and one of them actually was a subcontractor for the mining company. And so our lawyer said that him saying these things could, just the fact that we were using that, could be considered libelous, right? But it was his opinion, not mine, but I was using it. So we decided to keep it up and just try to, you know, bet on black and see if we could get the insurance in time. And within a week, we had the insurance. So, but yeah, a lot of the footage was just me kind of nervously speaking on camera. But I did say some things that were about the mining company coming into town, what this means. This possibly could be the future of this town, which is my opinion. So it could have gotten me in trouble. Yeah, but they, you know, they can, a company like this can sue you without even seeing the film or even having any reason, you know, to sue.
This is a really interesting point about Kickstarter, especially from a documentary standpoint. Certain projects just kind of lend themselves to kind of rollicking big Kickstarter campaigns, and I think certainly the film about Aaron did. There's a big community. He already represents a big community of people. I'd made a previous film called We Are Legion, the story of the hacktivists, which is really about a huge group of really angry, intense people. It kind of fits for a Kickstarter campaign. But certainly in a broad range of the stuff that I cover as a journalist, an investigative journalist, it's not right. You can imagine that sort of hacker surveillance space where there's a lot of potential projects that just would be completely wrong for Kickstarter. And
I always thought it was wrong for Kickstarter, but I needed that money more than my common sense was telling me. So we took the risk. But the whole time, for 3 years, I wanted to launch this. And, my people were telling me, and I was also telling myself, first of all, I couldn't put anything out there because I was still living and working alone in Colombia. And any of those opinions that I had that became public knowledge could get me killed, could get me in a lot of trouble.
Or even less, like, shut down your sources, or shut down, and suddenly you have nobody who's talking to you.
Yeah, that's the kind of least negative thing that could happen. So it's an interesting thing. Kickstarter can be great for a lot of projects, but some people who are working in places that you don't want other people to know exactly what you're doing, So you have to strategize when you're going to get that message out there. Typically, it's when you get out of that place and then go someplace safer.
Yeah, that's definitely why we see a lot of docs in post-production, or you see a campaign for like the Yes Men who raised money for their last film, which I don't think is yet completed. And half the project is really running on a reputation of what they've done in the past and the kind of work that they do, and knowing that funds are going towards more of the kind of work that they do, but they have to be fairly thoughtful about the limited amount of things they can say about what they're up to. Or like the filmmakers who made The Cove have a new movie that's coming out at Tribeca called The Heist, where again it was kind of like, you saw what we did, we're up to no good again. And Kickstarter is a place where, you know, if people want to support you knowing that limited amount of information, they can. But for sure, I think you need to be careful, because one of the beautiful things about how public it is it can also be, you know, a scary thing depending on where you're at with the process of making something. Yeah.
So I think one of the appeal of Kickstarter is it feels so friendly to beginners, right? I'm like, it feels like anybody can walk in and just raise money. But I'm sure, Brian, your experience, and Mark, it sounds like the experience you learned with the liabilities of putting out your product online. It's a really sophisticated tool, and it's a really sophisticated process. And I hear a lot of people use Kickstarter say, like you were saying, Elizabeth, all of a sudden you're like, wow, I'm overwhelmed with how much work this all of a sudden is. So my question is, who is an experienced fundraiser, and before you started your Kickstarter, who started Kickstarter as the very first time they've ever fundraised for a project? And I'd be curious to know the experience.
Well, you know, we didn't know anything about what we were getting into. Suddenly you just realize that it's an incredible amount of work, and I had a really small team. And but the advantage we had was that we had just recently won a grant through the Sundance Institute. So they have a program that's part of the Institute that's called Artist Services. And they have their own page on Kickstarter that is, you know, that we were invited to be featured on that Sundance page. And so before starting, we had meetings every couple weeks, or, you know, once a week with Artist Services, and they kind of walked us through the best way to launch the campaign. And then also get us ready to, you know, for what we were about to experience doing this. So yeah, that was that's who helped us, really.
Briefly, I've done both, raised money. I mean, I always feel like I just kind of jump headfirst into a film and that stuff sorts itself out. The beauty, of course, of Kickstarter is the independence, right? You're raising money and you're not, you know, you're being funded by somebody else. There's more likely they're going to try to have a say in what you're in the outcome. You know, even if once you get more established, that's less of an issue. You know, people understand that, like, you won't get into those relationships without some editorial, you know, control. So or give up any editorial control. But yeah, the beauty of Kickstarter is it's just completely independent. You're raising money, and that group of backers is trusting that you're gonna do the right thing with it. And then you have a responsibility to do the right thing. You know, it's a way of, it's almost like pressuring you to kind of push up your game a little bit.
I was going to say, yeah, this is my first time doing a Kickstarter campaign, or even I had made short documentaries before, but this is the first film that I really made that had a budget. The others were just made for no money at all. But what really helped me was going to like a panel at a film festival, and I think it was Indiegogo, the guy who founded Indiegogo. There's a lot of like literature online and things that you can read that are like statistics based, like if you raise this much money in this amount of time, or if you do these certain things, then you'll be more successful. Well, what I took away that sort of I saw in my own campaign, one thing that he said was you have to make sure that you have secured funds before you start your project. Like some people just think they press the button, say go, and like they think that, you know, the money is just going to start rolling in. But like if you're looking at someone's Kickstarter page, you're probably, if you're like a stranger, if you're not friends or family, you're probably not going to donate if there isn't at least like a few $100s in there or something, you know, on the first day. So I had, you know, certain friends and certain family members that on the first day I had them give those funds. And the other thing was that he said that you should add a tier of rewards that's like way beyond what you know, like a really high level. And I did that with my film. We did $1,000 level. And I just, so for the yard sale film, our rewards were, we bought stuff along the route of the sale. And we put little stickers on them to sort of like brand them as our, yeah. It was kind of crazy because we had 4 days, 700 miles to make a film and also buy rewards for like lots of people. But I added $1,000 reward level, and that was like, I'll get you something from the sale, and I'll also bake you an apple pie. Like, I just like, I was like, sure. And some like a random person donated $1,000, and I don't think I would have done that if I didn't go to that talk and that guy didn't say that. So definitely like aim high, because there are people out there. That was really like a cool experience for me. It's just that like people who I didn't know at all were like contributing to my project and sort of like validating what I was doing. Yeah.
Yeah, this was actually my second Kickstarter campaign, and this was the first one we did for a feature. But the first one I did it was just myself. It was for a short film, but there was some very valuable stuff that I learned from that campaign, which was the short film was called Hoverboard, and it was about this little girl who tries to invent a real working hoverboard. And so I built a hoverboard replica from scratch, and we listed it as one of our incentives, you know, I think at $100 level. And, you know, and we said, you know, if you donate this level, you get the prop from the film. And me being the genius that I am, I put free worldwide shipping. And thinking like, who outside the United States is gonna take this, you know? Yeah. Well, but see, the thing is when you're creating the campaign, you're just thinking about like, oh, what can I do to get the money? You're not really thinking about the consequences. And so once we got it was like, holy shit, we got the money, you know? And so, you know, by the time, you know, the materials and everything of building the hoverboard cost, you know, maybe a little over $100. And then the person who ended up taking that reward was from like this small village in Israel. So all in all, I ended up spending about $250 over that 100. So, you know, the good news is we raised our goal. We got our the short film made, but it was a very valuable learning experience, and I was able to take. And so we were able to take it into Drunktown. You know, it was like, okay, let's really think about these rewards and these incentives, and like what is practical and what isn't. So, thanks.
So you guys are all just learning from these people's lovely mistakes.
Learn from my mistakes.
Yeah, second row. A wall of shame. Yeah, I mean, right. The question is how Kickstarter monitors whether or not people fulfill their rewards. Yeah, I mean, we're a platform sort of like an eBay or an Etsy. What happens on Kickstarter is totally between the creator and the backer. We have a community support team and a moderation team that is, you know, spending all of their days looking at projects, responding to customer service queries. But in general, it's about, you know, backers directly contacting the creator and checking in. I've gotten lots of project updates that are just like, you know, our post-production is going on 6 months longer than we thought it would, or we thought our film was this story and turns out it's that story, or thank you guys for your patience, you know, we're sending out surveys for rewards. I mean, I think in many ways, once funding ends, the updates become a space to keep people posted on what's going on with your progress. But for sure, you know, we very much want it to be between creators and backers to have that conversation directly. we're not sort of police in that regard. Yeah.
And it's tricky. I was just going to add to that. It's tricky sometimes, because you in the Kickstarter campaign you give dates, right? And filmmaking it's hard to predict when you're going to be done with a film or when it's going to be out. So I think it's careful. You want to sort of choose your language carefully. Like,
yeah, I think it's
estimating.
We have the estimated delivery date as one thing, and it's estimated for a reason. We also have a risks and challenges section that we require you to fill out, where you talk about like what are the possible pitfalls of completing this project. And I would encourage you to be really honest in that space. I think sometimes I read them and they're like these sort of college essays where you're asked like, what's your biggest weakness? And you're like, I just try so hard. Like, I just have to be so good at everything. That's my downfall. And you're like, that's a kind of bullshit answer. So I think like saying, being honest about this is my first film, or, we are estimating that we're going to deliver DVDs and downloads in a year from now, but we also are seeking commercial distribution, which may delay, receiving those rewards, and we'd be working with a distributor to fulfill that. So, I think that we do try and provide these spaces for you to be communicative and transparent. And that's sort of what we like to be, is the platform to give you the space to do that. But in the end, we're not parents, so it's up to you to actually communicate that effectively.
But it's a really good idea, yeah, because, and the incentive for like a new Kickstarter, somebody who's launching a campaign, is to not do that. You don't want to, there's just a natural incentive to say, oh, of course this project's going to happen. Of course there's not any, you're safe donating to this. But obviously, in the creative arts, there's lots of risk in terms of timing and everything. So definitely this is it's good advice to be as honest with that kind of challenges section as possible.
You had it, yeah.
How did each of you and also Kickstarter publicize your campaigns? Was there any publicity apart from on the internet or apart from the Kickstarter website itself? I know there's also many social media sites, but was there anything apart from just internet publicizing?
Do you guys want to start, Sarah?
Yeah. Well, we just sort of, my film is a narrative feature about contemporary Native Americans. There isn't exactly like a market for that, and so we just we put our campaign out there, and it was just like, what's going to happen? But there was a lot of sort of unexpected stuff that happened from it. We had a very, very slow start, but we ended up getting some press from the Huffington Post, from Out Magazine, from they sort of ran articles on our Kickstarter campaign. That was completely unexpected, and it also sort of gave us because when we started the campaign, there was no guarantee that we were going to get in Sundance. All we knew is we had submitted it, and it's like we're just sitting back crossing our fingers. So that, and then once we did get into Sundance, we had this sort of built-in base that we're able to build on, and then they were able to spread the word as well, and that sort of built on itself, and kind of like let us reach our funding goal.
So you were accepted to Sundance midway through the Kickstarter campaign?
Yeah, I think we got into Sundance at the tail end of our Kickstarter campaign. So it was just like trying to build on the momentum of whatever previous backers.
We actually were accepted to Sundance about 2 weeks into our campaign, right after the lawyers said, okay, you can go ahead and keep doing this. But we weren't allowed to publicize that because they hadn't let out the press report yet. So we couldn't even use that. We couldn't capitalize on that news for Kickstarter.
You have really cool timing.
Yeah, it was. Thanks. Yeah, I've been getting that for. Took me 6 years to make the film, but it still worked out. And so what we really tried to do, we realized we couldn't capitalize on that news, so we went really hard to friends and family. And I think our campaign was unique in that a lot of our backers were mostly friends of friends, or family of family. We didn't get that many kind of just random funders because we couldn't publicize it. And so we almost didn't meet it because we really had that trough in the graph for a while there where we couldn't do anything. But then all of a sudden, it was the same thing. Right at the end, all the money came in. I was on a flight coming back from doing sound design, flying from Dallas to New York. And we had, I think, 2 days left on the campaign, and we were 16,000 short. When I landed in New York, we were 1,000 over the mark.
Do you guys want to talk about yours or Fred? Yeah, you, Brian.
Press?
Yeah.
Yeah, our Kickstarter campaign got a lot of press initially, and lots of stories written up about the fact that we're making that I was making a film about Aaron Swartz, and Wired wrote us up. That followed my previous film and stuff, so that helped a lot. We went through our goal right away. In fact, the other thing I learned on this is that I don't think we handled some Kickstarter campaigns I've noticed have handled the people that go over their goal, quickly. There's stretch goals and there's other things. Maybe you know more about or have more advice about this, but I think we sort of said we after 10 days we reached our goal, so we had 20 days left, and so it was kind of like, well, what do we do now? And my instinct was just to say, thank you, everybody. We did it. Thank God, we're on our way. And so it didn't, we didn't make much more. But obviously, the Kickstarter has tons of campaigns that go much beyond that. So there's a science, or maybe there's advice Kickstarter people have to what do you do in that case? You do stretch goals. You try to say, look, if we can raise X amount more, we'll be able to then finish the film or do all that stuff. We tried that, but I don't feel like we did it well.
What your goal was 75 and you raised 95?
Yeah.
So you raised 20 extra grand
That's
in
true.
20 days. That's pretty cool.
That's true.
Yeah, I mean, the concept of the stretch goal was not something that Kickstarter ever invented. It was sort of one of those things that happens on the internet where the community that uses your space tells you what your space is. And I think for film, it's always tricky because very often filmmakers are raising just a portion of their budget. So it's not so much a stretch as it is like, this is the chunk of change that feels like both what we need for production or for post or for finishing, and is something that we can achieve. But if we get anything more than that, those funds can also go towards X, Y, and Z. I think it's best to just be really transparent about that at the outset and have on your project page in the description, what any excess of funds would go towards. I personally am not a fan of backing a project and then getting an update that says, we reached our goal, thank you, and then 2 hours later, one that says, our new goal is blah, 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 and you're like, wait, it feels very bait and switchy. And I also think you have to keep in mind that after you reach your goal, if people are still pledging to your project, you have to continue to fulfill more and more rewards and spend money and time shipping more and more things. So just kind of, it's great to go past it, but keeping in mind how to communicate that thoughtfully from the outset and how to balance wanting more funds with fulfilling rewards. We have a kind of, we're sort of conservative on that front of, it's exciting if you can do it well, but there's definitely no pressure on, to do it.
Well, we were pretty transparent about that. In fact, we said in our Kickstarter campaign, we're going to do 2 Kickstarter campaigns. We're going to do the get going, sort of get us started, and then the finishing. Should we need it later? And it became clear midway through that we're not going to do 2 Kickstarter campaigns. We're going to do 1 Kickstarter. It was too much work, So again, back to I think it's rare that a film is fully funded by Kickstarter, but it's certainly so valuable at the right moment.
Did it help you find other financing or like?
I mean, it just introduced the film to the world, and so suddenly everybody knew I was making the film, and the momentum just kind of pushed us forward. So that momentum certainly brought on other financing. Yeah.
Can I ask what other kind of financing y'all got besides using Kickstarter? I mean, did you do other things first and then went to that, or did you start with Kickstarter?
The question was about what other financing besides Kickstarter. I don't know how comfortable you guys to answer that. For me, we had a our film was largely financed through like private equity, like 3 independent film financiers who put a lot of money into films. We had a bunch of grants, like from the Tribeca Film Institute and Rooftop Films and San Francisco Film Society, who don't traditionally fund comedies, but we kind of are telling a different story in a different way, and got excited about that. And then we had always kind of set aside that we wanted to raise at least 30 grand through Kickstarter, which we could have gone back to our equity investors and just split it 10 grand each among each of them. But we really wanted to invite a community to be a part of it and get people excited and get press and build buzz and build an audience for this film and have 14,000 people watch our video and have 600 people that we didn't know be a part of making it happen. So we kind of always carved that space out to raise those funds from the outset.
Yeah, I my producer would be better able to answer this question, but we had some private investors for production of the film, and then once we got into post, my producer sort of came up and said, "Hey, we're surprised we don't have money, so we need to do a Kickstarter campaign." So that's where that sort of came in, and but we were fortunate enough, we made our Kickstarter goal, and we also got some post grants from Film Independent, and that was all super helpful in helping us kind of land the film. Yeah, as far as I understand, it doesn't hurt them at all, because it's just money that goes into the film that hopefully makes it better, So that's as much as I sort of understand about it.
It's interesting. I think maybe the question, like when the film becomes saleable, when you. Well, I think most people do festivals to sort of share the film with audiences. It's not a money making thing, but the relationship between Kickstarter and the proceeds that you ultimately get is something I think filmmakers work out. Kickstarter backers get rewards, right? And so when you bring on other partners and stuff and equity, that becomes a whole discussion about. This isn't even the realm of.
I'm not knowledgeable about that, but we go to see your film here. We all pay entrance. It's like when you go for a Hollywood film. Part of that money that the audience pays at the box office goes to the film.
Some festivals pay screening fees. Some of them don't. Some films get money, some of them don't. Mostly festivals are about connecting with the community, being there for Q&A, meeting audiences, having people see and talk about your film, helping raise the profile of the film, meeting other filmmakers, waking up early to talk about Kickstarter with them. But yeah, when your film is commercially released, typically the filmmaker sees some money through their distributor who's putting the film into theaters. But very often they don't. Very often the distributor takes their fee and there's nothing left for the filmmaker. Yeah.
Campaign video, is there an average length you'd like to see it, like under 4 minutes?
Yeah, I used to say under 4 minutes. Now I kind of say under 3. The internet is forever shortening everything all the time. So yeah, I would say a sweet spot is around 3 minutes, and also thinking about using video to post as project updates, so you don't have to feel like you're putting everything that you've got into the one project video. Yeah.
I'm so glad I came because the observation that I made this morning is that not only is Kickstarter the obvious money for your project, but you're creating alternative economy and you're creating community, which are 2 big buzzwords in Ashland. So thank you for that. I really got this on a whole different level. But I wanted to ask, especially to Mark and hear from other people, the rewards. So you're alone in Colombia for all this time, and then all of a sudden you do this Kickstarter.
Well, when you're working on a film for 5.5 years by yourself in the middle of Royal Columbia, it's kind of nice when people start to get an interest in your project. And so when I start seeing backers and I start seeing family members and friends who maybe before were saying, "What the hell are you doing down there?" And now they're interested not only in supporting me, but they want to see the film be completed. And I think that's why most people will give money. I mean, you go up and you give a video that's kind of a personal statement, and they're investing in you in a way, but they're also saying, I want to be part of this film. I want to be part of its success. So that's really a rewarding thing to see that even if it's $25 or someone gives $5,000, they are interested in seeing that film come to life. And so that was really amazing for me, especially since I felt so alone. I was literally alone for so many years. But I didn't launch it until I actually left Columbia because of the safety concerns. I just chose it because Kickstarter is more visible. I think it's just a bigger, people know more about it. And to me, I did have a producer who had raised money on Indiegogo, and she was trying to push us in that direction. And we just, I think, decided basically because it was it's more well known.
Is there virtually no financial reward unless you make it into theaters?
There is no financial reward, period. Well, usually.
I mean, in a odd position because I made We Are Legion was 2 years ago. We were at Ashland 2 years ago with that film. That was one of the first films I'd been in the festival circuit with for a while, for about 10 years actually. I'd worked for Frontline and Bloomberg and National Geographic. But the difference between 10, 12 years ago when I was first in the festival circuit and now is that there's the world of how a filmmaker can make money and make films has changed dramatically, and the kinds of deals that you're seeing has changed dramatically. I mean, used to see 12 years ago, used to see people that want to make money off your film, distributors coming to buy all rights, for 15 years, everything worldwide for $5,000 or something. Now everybody talks about piracy and the problems with sharing. But there's actually lots of interesting tools available for filmmakers to make money now that just weren't around 10, 12 years ago. Kickstarter wasn't around 10, 12 years ago to start a film, to get funding to start a film. You didn't have places where you could access things like iTunes or companies like VHX, or now actually Vimeo has a kind of video on demand platform where you're dealing with them directly and you as a filmmaker are getting money. It's a complicated system, and I think lots of filmmakers are trying to figure out how to make money back because it's a hard road. But I'm really positive about it, and I think tools like Kickstarter are one part of that puzzle. You're creating an environment, a community of people that are interested in your film. They're supporting your film, and then suddenly you have this way of accessing an audience directly through video on demand and other things. So I think there's lots of really cool, exciting tools in that regard.
Hat?
Yeah, we actually have. I mean, it's actually been the opposite. Like, we've just seen more projects, more funds pledged, people's backer counts growing, people's average raise growing. Like, when I first started at Kickstarter, I would hear a lot like, yeah, Kickstarter is really good if you're making a short film, but other than that, it's not great. And then for a while it was like, oh, Kickstarter is good if you're making a doc, but other than that, it's not great. And I was like, Kickstarter is cool, but I'm too established. It's really just for first-time filmmakers. And then like Spike Lee and Zach Braff happened. Everyone was like, Kickstarter is cool, but I'm a first-time filmmaker. It's only for established people. And I think that over time, it's just, Kickstarter, I don't know that it's for everyone, like every single project on the planet. There's times where you have to be thoughtful about when is the right time in the life of my film, and for me to have the time and energy to do it. But I do think that, like, whether it's a feature or a doc or a first time or established, I think it's intentionally quite universal. And we've really just seen the community grow sort of very exponentially. And it's just really become kind of baked into the practice of making and sharing your work. So there definitely has been the opposite of kind of the fatigue that you're talking about. In the back. Yeah, I mean, I can say, yeah, we've certainly seen everything from early stage of development through raising P&A, publicity and advertising funds for the, marketing and release of the film. I think the best time is kind of like, when do you have a month to pay attention to this? When do you have time to build a great video and thoughtful rewards? And I think it's sort of, sometimes it can be really helpful in financing where you're building a lot of energy about this thing that helps you go out and get other financing because it's kind of proof of concept that there's an audience for this, there's an awareness of this. Sometimes you've raised all your financing and you're just looking for that last piece of the puzzle. Sorry, it's like a very long-winded way of not answering your question. But I do think it's mostly about like, when is the right moment for you? There doesn't seem to be a very clear trend with film on Kickstarter as to like one particular, point in the process.
I would say for me personally, like it was always like, okay, when is the sort of the last possible moment when we can sort of do a Kickstarter campaign, because it's kind of like an ace in the hole, so you don't want to just like use it right off the bat. If you can get funding, if you can go into pre-production, if you can go into production, that's great. And then, so because you don't want to do, I believe you don't want to do more than one Kickstarter campaign for a project. If that's correct.
You can.
Oh, okay.
We've especially in the doc space more than narrative, we've seen a lot of films raise funds for multiple campaigns, but they're typically spaced out. I would say in general, filmmakers don't do it less than, say, 8-9 months from the last one, and they try and make good on the rewards to the extent that they can, to show progress the same way, like if you get a grant and then you're applying for another one, a funder wants to see like, what have you done in the last year with those resources, kind of a thing.
But it's a good point, though, that an early Kickstarter campaign kind of is a way of gauging interest in a project. If a lot of people respond to it, you're kind of, it's something that people want to see.
Yeah. I guess that's all the time we have. My email address is Elisabeth@kickstarter.com, but it's Elisabeth with an S, not a Z. I don't know why my parents are strange. So Elisabeth@kickstarter.com. Always happy to help. Thank you guys. Thanks so much to the panel. Congrats on your films. Thanks for coming out.